An avatar of Cain is an ancient deity incarnate, a burning shard of Kala Mencha Cain, the bloody-handed god of the Aeldari. Awakened for battle, he marches through enemy fire without breaking stride, laughing cruelly as his weapon, the wailing doom, cleaves flesh and tastes the blood of his foes with each strike. Hello and welcome to Broadsword Wargaming. My name is Oliver, and in this video I'm going to take you through and show you how I painted the brand new Avatar model by Games Workshop. I am so excited that they actually managed to do this model and they did it some justice. The first Avatar model I owned was made back in 1994, and this has been our current version, excluding the Forge World one, for the past 20 odd years. It has been in need of a remake, and boy did we get one. This one can be built with an axe, a spear or a sword, and you can build it with the classic helmeted head, a hairy helmetless head, or something in between. I am going to replicate the classic with a helmeted head and the sword. Now this goes together really well. It requires a little bit of filing to make sure it all fits nicely, but other than that, this is what you are left with. Now I know it doesn't look very large here, but it is in fact a very big model. I feel like it's a bit daunting and I'm not quite sure where to start. I really want to replicate the cool inside lava effect and the kind of molten lava statue model. I'll just begin where I normally begin, and that is with basing the model. Now you can use Chaos Black spray, you can use spray cans, you can even paint this on if you like, but personally I really like the finish from an airbrush because it's nice, smooth and even. Unsure on exactly what is going to be on show at the end, I decided I should do some work to the black before I do anything else. I dry brush it with Hexed Lichen, which is kind of a purpley colour. You could use Incubi Darkness or any other kind of colour just to add something to the black. I then dry brush again over the top with a lighter grey. I use Somber Grey by Game Air, and this kind of gives me that purpley finish, and at least there's some texture and something to look at on the model. Next up is getting some white. I always use Liquitex white. As you can tell, it's a very well thumbed bottle. But I'm going to spray this into all of the recesses on the model, and I'm going to show you on the base because it's a little bit easier. Despite using a 0.2 needle, I found it quite difficult to keep the paint exactly where I wanted it. People who have more experience may be better at this. You could also do this with a brush, and maybe that's the way to go. Just to add some definition back into the model, I decided to paint black onto the flatter surfaces, giving me a much stronger contrast between the white and the black. With a good base, I decided to move on to the next bit and get the airbrush out again. I use Barrack Nar Burgundy. Of course, you can use any kind of pinky purple you like, and I just spray this directly over the white, trying to keep it into the center of the cracks. It has very little effect on the black, just changes the color a tiny bit, which is what I wanted. I then go in with Hellfire Red, which is a very strong, bright red, and this is going to start to form the core of the lava effect throughout the whole model. Now bear in mind the paint here is quite thin, and it doesn't have much of an effect if I blast it straight over the black. As you can see from this picture, the black is still visible, certainly as a grey now, through the red. Next up is blast it with an orange. I'm going to be more refined now and not use this everywhere over all of the red, but I'm going to try and use it on the points where I feel the lava would be stronger. The face has really started to pop now, and I used a bit more orange there than I had elsewhere. Looking back, I wish I'd used more over the entire model, as it would have really upped the saturation, helping these next steps. Now I want to add some yellow in, and yellow doesn't go very well over this red. It takes a long time and it isn't a very strong colour. I decided to use white on various little pinpoints where I wanted to really make the colours pop and add the yellow. If I'm being honest, this is still an experiment for me, and I am trying different ways to see if I can get this to work. I did try, as you can see there, using the yellow directly over the colours I'd already had, but as yellow tends to do, if you put it over black or some darker colours, it goes green. Now this looks to me like it's working, and I was pretty happy with the result here. Make sure your yellow is bright and do focus on the areas you really want this to go. I could have gone a little bit further and added more into the face and more into the eyes, and possibly added a bit more white and an even brighter yellow to make this really pop. Now, although you didn't see it, I actually really like the purple effect too, so if you didn't want to do this lava thing, you could go back with the purple and then just start adding lighter pinks and whites. This is where the true magic happens. I got the orange paint and I watered it down a hell of a lot. I then just added it and almost like pin washing this into the recesses. Now you could use oils, you could use enamels or anything else you find, but just watered down paint here started to affect the colours around the side, and it allowed me to really focus these strong oranges. I let it dry and went in again. I then went in again with a yellow in finer places, and you end up with a really good fluorescent-y kind of glowing colour scheme. That is how it looked in the end, and that is exactly what I wanted this to look like at the start. It turns out trying things and experimenting can work out in your favour, and this one I feel did. The next step was to start blocking in the colours. I went in with the airbrush to get a nice smooth coat on the reds. You can see here I'm just highlighting up the top of the helmet, I'm highlighting up the armour. There's nothing too fancy here, nothing for me to really show you other than I'm just blocking the colours in. I tried to go at the fires here. I used the same technique, blasted some white in, then hit yellow, then orange and up to reds. I even attempted a bit of OSL, and as you can see on the front there, the cape has got some orange on it and it does clash over onto the other side of the black. But I decided not to go overboard and OSL everything and have the flames affecting all the colours around them. I was a little unsure what I was going to do with the sword, so I decided to take some inspiration from the old Avatar model and make this a kind of lava flaming molten sword. I added orange, yellow up to white in as finer areas as possible up the middle, and then painted some black all the way around the edge and used Airbrush Earthshade just to wash it in and to help blend it together. Then it's on to paintbrush work. That's the end of the airbrush, and I'm now going to just use some gold. So for my golds, I used these three colours, mixed them up in various layers and used the ice yellow on the finer tips to almost make it look a bit NMM. It isn't really, but it just adds some nice variation and a bit of interest to the model. For the gems, I decided green would be a nice contrasting colour to the rest of it. So basing the whole thing with Caliban green, I then use varying stages of lighter green as fine as possible with a Nuln Oil on the top side, and then I cover it with the technical paint Ard Coat to give it a nice glossy finish, which will really help the gems shine. Don't forget the little white dot in the top left corner as well. To help break the model up a bit, I decided to use some white transfers. Then make sure you've got yourself some Microset and Microsol. I'll leave you a link down below. This stuff is excellent when it comes to applying transfers because not only does it allow it to sit smoothly, it also helps bend the transfer into position and into shape. And this loincloth is an awkward shape as it is, so without using that, I don't think I get it to sit flat. And that's how we're looking. The whole model is essentially painted now. The transfer's on, a bit of OSL is still on there. We've got some nice glow effects. It's just on to basing. I'm going to try out this Green Stuff World mud textures swamp mud. I quite like the idea of the base being in some old ruin on some old forest lands, and this is where they summon the avatar. So this stuff goes down really nicely. Don't mix it up with your water, but just splodge it into place. And then I'm going to use some Geek Gaming Scenics Arid Grasslands. This is available from the Broadsword Wargaming shop, links down below. And I'm going to sprinkle this on in various places to add a bit of texture, add a bit of colour, and add a bit of authenticity to the kind of fallen broken rock base. Finally, because I'm in the mood to experiment, I'm going to try out these Green Stuff World fake little plant things. They're really easy to use. You just pop them out of the paper and plonk them down where you want them. And with that final touch, we are done. This is the finished model. What do you guys think? How do you feel about the effect in the end? Does it look like something you can manage? Because I promise you, it definitely is. This model has been an absolute pleasure to paint and has been something that has really reignited my hobby mojo. Not only is it a beautiful model, it's also massive. There it is next to a Primaris Space Marine. Now I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please do remember to like, share, subscribe and hit the alarm bell for more videos to come. Or check out the links below if you want to support the channel. There's links down there to my shop and also to the Patreon where you get access to a private Discord group. It's always good to experiment, so don't worry, don't give up and keep at it. Stay safe.